Welcome to Nuhaus Knows, where you go when you want to know. Introducing our illustrious host,
Professor Nuhaus, a.k.a. Rob Platt, my trusty sidekick.
Ralph.
hostess with the mostess.
Ralph.
Is it your turn for the dramatic pause?
And featuring
My
in
brain
this
stopped
corner,
And John the Builder.
Dun, dun, dun.
Silky tones of his
Wait,
voice.
well, you won't do it. I got to do
And finally, the man behind the panel.
It's me.
it. He's
Zach.
me. He's the Zach, the man with the broken finger.
Yes, folks, he does do voiceover work. Well, let's dive right in. What are we doing today, Professor?
Well, in our last session, we were discussing how things are right now, where prices are right now, where costs of construction are, and they're high.
And the misnomer of the square footage estimate.
Yes, the misnomer of the square footage estimate. So numbers are high, and we are seeing clients. And the first thing we're going to talk about, and this is kind of, you would think it's pretty basic, but people don't like it. First of all, when we do, we said in the last session that we can't even begin to get an accurate budget until our plans are done, until our design is complete. When our design is complete, then I can give it to John. And John, you can have you and your subcontractors and everybody
Yes.
looks at it and says, this is what it will take to do that, because the plans are the playbook, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's how we do that. That's how we get to those costs. Well, when we do that, when we kick it up and the numbers come back, and some of these numbers that you get, we were talking last time about changes that come kind of rapidly, like concrete company saying, surprise, in 2 weeks we're going up $10 a yard or whatever.
Yeah.
These things could happen in the middle of the bid process. In other words, what he started with, the price came out higher literally before he could get it off the notepad, right?
Yep. Yes.
So things are marginally volatile.
So that brings me to one question I wanted to ask before we get from there, because I feel like it's important.
Yeah.
So you talked about like how that can change like before the ink is dried on the paper.
Yeah.
When does that get locked in?
Fair.
It kind of doesn't. There are, and I'll give you a quickie. We talked about this before. There's two ways to go. One is called fixed fee, which nobody in the right mind does. If John has to give a fixed fee, knowing that there's volatility, you have to pad the bid.
Yes. We elevate it.
You have to elevate it.
You have no
because
choice. I mean, you have no choice in the matter.
Because you literally could lose money.
Yes.
Losing money is not a good business plan.
Yes. I don't want to build your house for free.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
I
man.
definitely
Or
wanna-
even pay people to build your house.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than free. It's losing money.
Yeah.
Or there's something called cost plus. And that is the preferred method now because it's very transparent. It means the bank and you, the owner, see every single invoice. You see every cost comes across your desk. And people used to say cost plus is terrible. The builder doesn't have any incentive. They're going to go buy the most expensive things they can so they can mark it up that whopping 12%.
Which is kind of silly because, I mean, come on. Like, where I buy my plywood from, most of them are comparable. I mean, $1 or $2 here or there, that's fine. But, I mean, nobody's going to that guy who's only got 10 sheets left for 100 apiece. Who's coming? I'm not going to that guy.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to that guy.
no. So,
But does that guy exist?
Oh, believe it or not.
Yes, unfortunately
Yeah,
there are some.
Okay,
yeah,
then.
that happened a lot during COVID.
There it
Yeah.
is.
So we with cost plus, you can see all the cost, you can see things moving, you can see how the invoices are paid, what profit margins are being applied. It's very transparent. Transparent is good, and believe it or not, banks really like it. They like the transparency. So that being said, there is there's some good news, people. It doesn't seem like it. Even though these numbers are high, and I think we left us at between $225 and $230 a square foot is what we're looking at in the greater metro. This doesn't sound exciting, but it is. It's stable. Stable means it's not moving up and down a whole lot now. That is a pretty safe number for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
Is that safe to say?
I would say yes.
And we haven't had that 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, when I have to put a caveat in my contract that says with the price increases the way they've been coming, if we, if it's 5% more than what we bid to you, that I got to come to you and ask for it, That's a problem. I never had to do that before until COVID.
Yeah.
Now, am I doing it right now? No, because I don't have to.
So
But
if
I
that
did then.
increased so horribly as it did in 3 years, is there a chance that goes back down, or are they just like, hey, this is it now?
That's a good question. We've talked about
yeah.
that.
I think it can, but it goes back to that we
But
the
will it?
people thing.
Yeah.
We have got
And we
to
have
make it
a
happen.
minor disagreement. Not a big one, because you and I agree frighteningly on just about everything. Well, it is scary. It frightens me mostly, but just so you know. If the numbers, the part of the inflation of these numbers, like John said in the last session, is labor.
Yes.
Some people are getting paid a living wage now. No, that's not going to go away.
And it shouldn't.
They should.
No, it should not. I mean, people in this industry have to make a living wage. So that part is not going to go down. In fact, it could potentially go up. I see, for example, if materials are high, and they're stupid high.
Yep.
And they can come down some. There is movement, because when we talked to you before, listeners, about wholesale versus retail. In other words, what the people you buy from pay for who they buy from. So the wholesale is back to a pretty stable number, pretty low number. But prices, retail is still very high. So the disparity between wholesale and retail is the number we're arguing about with the retailers, because the question is, you can't justify all this. They send John a letter,
Oh yeah.
no explanation, just surprise.
Yep.
You're gonna
Here it
you're gonna
comes.
have
Enjoy this.
Enjoy this. It's it's your Maylocks moment for the week, and they send you these these increases.
And they don't mail you lube when they shove it up.
Well,
That is my wife.
This is my daughter.
here's the fun part about
I'm
that
guilty.
letter, though.
I keep things interesting.
I have not purchased anything from that group in a while.
Now, was that because of the cost, or just
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You give me the letter. Okay, I know where you're at. So now I've been dealing with these other folks, and they're staying where they're at, but you're going up 5 to 8%. Well, that's how it begins. I shop
Yeah.
like a madman for the last couple of years. So I go to this other group and say, beat that. They do.
That's because they want your business,
Absolutely.
and they're awake and they're not asleep at the wheel. So
But it's funny, though, because I told you in the last segment that people would not talk to me. Some would tell me, we're not taking on new clients. Now, I'm not even going to say the name. God, I hope somebody tries to sue me so I can put it out there. Anyway. But, yeah.
see, now he wants to be
Now he
sued.
wants
to be sued.
Just by them.
Oh, okay.
Oh, mixed
Just
by
them
the,
guys.
Just by the jackass. But, yeah, they did that. And, and that was very difficult for us because we really needed those materials. And when it's difficult to do that, it's hard to finish a project.
Yeah.
If you can't get what you need, that's a problem.
So that's
and you anticipated way before how much you'd need and the
Yeah.
approximate cost. Then when it comes to the time of use, suddenly those prices have gone up in the contract, during the contract phase, should I say.
Yeah.
And, or term, these numbers go up, and your client looks at you like you have two heads, and you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe some of the ghosting that you get is people thinking if they wait, it'll change? In a good way.
Yes.
I do think that happens,
Yeah.
but I also think that I'm perceived as I'm too high or whatever, and they go talk to others. Because that has happened before, too, where I got ghosted by someone, and they said, they didn't tell me they thought that. They just went and talked to someone else. And then I get a call back 3 months later, and they admit it and say, well, I talked to 2 other builders, and I'd like to know if you could re-engage.
So
Yeah.
does that mean they're trying to make you jockey for a lower price? Like,
Oh, no.
No, they thought I was too high.
No, the
Okay.
beauty is, and John and I, we talk frequently. We've got, and let's face it, you're one of our preferred builders. We trust you. We trust your ability to execute as we design. But we encourage multiple bids.
Yes.
And when I was a builder for 27 years, my feeling was I would like to have 2 competitors so that when you choose me, you did it with cause. It wasn't because you just thought I was a swell guy or I was funny or I was this or I was that.
Nobody chose you for that reason.
You are adopted. I'm just saying.
oh, the snark.
But, in truth, you want them to make an informed decision. That's and folks, if you pick up any two words from anything we say, informed decision is at the cornerstone of everything you need to be doing.
And we still feel like that in our business.
Yes.
We don't want to be the only designers that you talk to before you engage in a project. We want you to choose us because you felt like we were the best value, we were the most capable, we were the ones that you felt were the best ones for you to engage with in your project. We don't want you to come to us because we were the first ones you called and you got tired.
And you do laugh at my jokes, and so that matters.
I laugh at your jokes.
Thank you very
She
much.
groans
You
at
laugh
both
at
of
your
us.
own
Yeah,
jokes.
she groans at both of us.
Because I'm hilarious.
There's something.
Look, competition's good.
Yeah,
It is
good.
Competition's
Competition
good.
is good.
It's necessary.
Yes.
and
So-
that is something we got to zero in on.
So that kind of and that I can actually step in on this one too.
Oh, great.
I can't. Yeah, right. I'm not going to mention names on this one because I know they'll come after me. I used to work in a position where I would have to constantly get different bids for jobs. Ethan knows what I'm talking about. And I always, and I got in trouble for this, but I would always get a minimum 4 bids for
That's fabulous.
for any job.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they would be, well, we've always used them, and I went, well, I want to make sure that they're still giving us what we need. And don't get me wrong, 9 times out of 10, sure, yeah, they were fine. They were giving us like a good mid-range bid. I usually always, I usually avoided the lower bid and the highest bid.
Yeah.
I wanted
Which is
something
smart.
that I wanted in the middle. But that way I could at least make sure that I was getting the best bang for my buck and making sure that things worked out. And I had a lot of the vendors say, like, when I would come back, sorry, I'm going to have to go with someone else's bid. They were like, well, can you tell me what they bid? And I would talk to them. And suddenly they would be like, well, let me see what I can do. And a lot of times it was negotiable. Like, we were able to talk about, okay, well, we can't do this number, but we can come down a little more if we went with this product because...
Precisely.
And that's the thing. It's one of those, I always liked the engaging because that meant that you actually were taking interest in my project and you actually knew what you were talking, because you were like, I can't come down this much because that just won't work for me. But if we went with this product, it's comparable, it works for XYZ, and maybe it's a little cheaper, I can come down a little more. I'm actually more willing to go with you, even if you're a little more expensive than the next guy.
So let's zero in on that for a minute because, we have clients that they've gone through all this, they've gone through the vetting, they've chosen us over other designers, blah, blah, blah. They ask us the
Because
magic
we're
number.
delightful.
Yes. They ask
Mostly me.
the question, how, what is our budget for this? And we explain to them everything. And then, as we have spoken up until recently, things have been volatile.
Yeah.
And so the budget we started with, by the time we got done with the design, because the design can take 4 to 12 weeks of putting it together. By the time we get to the end, there could be a spike in prices.
Mm-hmm.
They're pissed at us.
Yeah.
We're just designers. We do not have any mythical control over the market, the economy. We don't have a secret phone that we can call in and find out what the guys in the back room are really doing. None of that crap. We have to work on averages.
Well, and I'm sorry if I'm backtracking a little bit, but what was your side of that minor and very rare disagreement with him on the wholesale retail?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's
I think
where
it
we're
was the-
going.
I think it was the labor side of things.
Yeah, it was that when, and where John and I were actually saying the same thing. If material prices do fall to a degree, I don't think they're going to feel it, because if they do the right thing, they should shift over to labor, because the labor guys still aren't getting the money. They've gotten a raise, they're not getting a good raise.
But it sounds like that drop could be so dramatic you would see a benefit.
It's a good
Right?
question.
Like if we're saying we went from 130 to 230 something on just cost of materials, even if you raise labor by 50%, some ridiculous number, that drop should be significant enough to, like, not even just offset, but be lower, right? That's the theory.
There's a theory, but it's in a perfect world where people are honest
Well.
and integrity rules. So that's the problem.
So not ours.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down. It's going to be forced to come down. Now, what level? I don't know.
But why? Why do you think it's going to be forced to come down?
Because it's unsustainable. We can't keep going up at 3 and 4% a year.
This is untenable right now.
Well,
Okay.
and
It
you know,
just
guys,
can't- it
let's
can't work.
dive
Well,
into that.
and that's to your point. I think I'm going where you're going, and stop me if I'm not, or don't.
They have a very similar brain, and it's scary sometimes.
The reason it's untenable is because what our boards are showing right now. What used to be achievable for middle America, they could buy a reasonable home, which now doesn't exist.
Nope.
And then they could expand it for a reasonable cost. For instance, correct me if I'm wrong, the home of the lawyer that we like a lot.
Yep.
The original design of the expansion came back about $100,000 more than it should have 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
She should have been able to afford the full design that she wanted to do within her budget.
Mm-hmm.
It came back higher than we expected it to.
You said
shocked.
100,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now it's untenable for her, and we're having to reduce the scope, which she's being very smart, and she's making compromises, and she's handling it the proper way. So kudos to her. She's doing the right thing, and she's not getting just butthurt about it. She's taking the steps to make it feasible. But she shouldn't have to, and that's the point. No one can manage, because what should be the cost of a screen room, the cost of a master bedroom expansion, the cost of a addition for a kitchen expansion, all of those things that used to be
Very predictable.
costs, $75,000, $100,000, things that were you could save up for, you could use your equity, you could do things, you could improve your property and still afford your property. Now you cannot.
So what are the compromises that she's making exactly?
Boy, that word keeps, and I love it. Both of you have said it. It's the great C word, and you filthy-minded people.
It's me.
Compromise. Talking to you, you're our listeners, and we're hoping you're paying attention. One solution you have, because, I mean, unless numbers fall, we can't force them. You have a couple of options. One is wait.
That would be a compromise.
Wait is a compromise.
Okay.
The other is, we have said cost per square foot. Less square foot is less cost.
And that's
You
the
got to
compromise.
dial back your expectations. You've got, I mean,
And dial back the detail. For instance, so she's doing both.
Okay.
She's dialing back the square footage. We're not doing as much. We're not expanding as much. And the detail of what we're doing is not as much. So we were going to vault some ceilings, which means we're, making them higher.
more dramatic.
Yeah, we're now not doing that. It's just going to be a flat ceiling.
Okay.
It's cheaper. We're pulling back on the detail as well. That means less material. That means less labor. So she's making compromises to bring down the cost, because that's what you have to do. We can't just bring down the cost without it. It's like being at the grocery store. You can't bring down the bill without taking groceries off the conveyor.
Clients that get mad at us, it's kind of funny in a way.
In an infuriating sort of way.
Yeah, because it's like, grow up.
I've heard many stories.
Yes. But honestly, it comes back to, this isn't magic, and you have to participate in the process. I call it a culture of victimology. I think we have everybody is being, assaulted in some way, and the way they're being assaulted is worse than everybody else's. When the fact of the matter is, we are all suffering from systemic failures and how things have been done. And it's been this way for a long time. And the only ones that can change it are you guys, like John said this episode and the last one. There's a hell of a lot of us. If y'all start talking And banding together, it's amazing what you can do to shift things.
There's so many examples of when it's happened.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
go back in history and just look at it. It works. It's always worked. It's always going to work. We just got to do it.
Well,
Are
I'd
you
imagine.
promoting the guillotine, John?
I was about to say French Revolution.
Let there
Well,
be
it's
cake.
not. That's
No.
that's
Eat
joy.
the rich.
We live in a great country. We live in the United States. We live in a free country. It's a democratic country. At least we're trying to keep it that way. And the idea is you have choices.
Yes.
You have choices. And one is quit expecting somebody else to fix everything for you. Somebody else isn't going to fix everything for you. You have to vote. You have to be informed. You have to watch the news. You have to pay attention. When you're working with us, you have to learn a little bit more about construction than you probably ever wanted to learn. You have to participate in everything. I had some surgery. I want to talk to a couple of doctors. I didn't just look at this schmuck and say, you went to medical school. You know what you call somebody that graduates from the bottom of their class in medical school? Doctor. It's the truth.
Well, and I know we've said this before, and I just feel like I have to push it in again. And we don't just mean vote in a national election. We're talking about
Yes.
local, paying
Oh,
attention.
more
Absolutely. Yes.
Those are the ones that are affecting you immediately.
Yeah, local and state elections are the most important. And we're going to start talking about things, and the episodes coming in the next several weeks, things that you can do that will work. What we're trying to do now, first, is identify the problem so you guys can get your arms around it. You can see it. I know you feel it, but whether you like it or not, you got to see it.
Well, and something that Dad and I have talked about a lot is we all feel it and we're all hearing it from all the talking heads.
Yes.
But what
Constantly.
we're hearing are symptoms.
Yeah.
Big time.
No one is talking about the root. No one is talking about what's causing the symptoms. And so we're all playing whack-a-mole because the reality is the people at the top, the people at the head of the corporations, all of them, they are profiting from the root causes. So they don't want to solve it. And they want you focused on the symptoms because it's distracting.
Absolutely. And it goes back to the old follow the money.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
follow the money.
Follow the money.
It's real simple.
Well, you said symptoms, Aaron. What was the main symptom then that you were talking about?
Oh,
Well,
geez.
I mean, the symptoms right now are high grocery cost. The symptom is high inflation. The symptom is high property costs. The symptom is the interest rates. The symptom is effing student loans
Language.
that are crushing us right now. Those are all symptoms. They're symptoms of a system, and everybody calls it a corrupt system and a broken system, and that's the problem. It is not broken.
It's working
It is
fine.
working exactly the way it was designed to work. It is working to squeeze money out of us to keep them profiting. So what we need to do is we need to break the system that is working the way it's supposed to work. And the way we do that is you vote the people out of power. You vote for change. You stop buying. And yeah, it's uncomfortable for a minute. It is uncomfortable to not buy a home when you're ready to buy a home. It is uncomfortable to buy less groceries. It is uncomfortable to not go to concerts or to not buy clothes that you want to
Don't
buy.
go out to eat.
Or don't go out to eat. Those things are uncomfortable. It's not fun. It's a sacrifice and it sucks.
Well, it's like what John, you said, just wait. But I've been waiting for a home. I've been waiting to buy a home for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So when does the waiting stop?
Enough of us have to wait.
But that's the problem. We've been waiting out of necessity and not choice. We need to get enough people that are banding together and waiting out of choice and making choices, not forced into things.
I think that's a real key difference. Waiting because of necessity and waiting because of choice. They're
Yes.
totally different things. And I think that's what you're saying, John. I know that's what you're saying. I know that's what you two are saying. But it's one of those things where it's like how long do we have to wait until they decide? Because here's the thing. Like, I've been renting my whole life. I've rented my entire life. I've never owned a home. I've never lived somewhere that didn't have a landlord, that didn't have a company that owns it. So But the problem is these companies are starting to buy these homes and then rent them. So where do I mean, how are you supposed to go outside of that or break that mold? It's frustrating.
Well-
and I
And
understand
that
the
is
waiting,
going to
but-
come up in the next session because in this one, and exactly, I mean, you're exactly right. And I
But
don't
that's
want you to
another
dig in too deep.
sacrifice to talk about.
The only places that I go where a home is owned by someone is my mom's house and our old house as a kid growing up, my grandmother's house. I don't really, anyone else I visit our age, they're renting someplace.
Yeah.
Besides Zach. But, they don't have working sinks. It's not really a home. It's more like a basement with dogs in it.
It's a kennel.
Actually, the dogs work.
They do work.
Dogs are
The
brilliant.
dogs add
Well,
heating.
one of them's broken. One of them's broken.
I mean, they're all broken.
Well, basically, dogs they own you.
Yeah.
You are their bitch.
Oh yeah.
It's true. Yeah, I know. And anybody has dogs knows. It's true.
Excluding his wife, he does live in a house full of bitches.
Hey,
Yeah.
There's a lot
hey, Seinfeld said it best. He said, if aliens are watching us, he said they're watching us walk around and pick up the poop, and they're going, they run the whole planet. He was
They run
right.
the whole planet.
He's right. If you're looking, that's what they're thinking.
But
They gotta
really, cats are our overlords.
be. Well, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Like
one of the things we're going to
Empire
lead
Star
with
Wars.
in identifying the problem, and I was working in affordable housing in that market around the Olympics, 96 Olympics, and the year and a half before. The median price of a home back then was about $155,000. $155,000.
Yeah, do that math for a minute.
Yeah, now just kind of dwell on that one. So it was 155. Then it bobbed in. I can't remember what the early 2000s. It was 200, 230 or 240. I can't remember. Now, as of a couple of days ago, I saw the stats. The average price nationally is $440,000. Is the average. Now that's talking about some yokel that lives on a farm out in the middle of Timbuktu. That's not here because I'm watching, and I love this. There's a commercial for
I'm sure it's higher here in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Yes.
there is a. Well, this is great. This is a national commercial. It's a national real estate website that you can go to, and I'll go say everything but their name. And they're doing this whole thing based on Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And Goldilocks is living in the house, and they really want her to get out. And she is cruising their website to find a house. Watch it, because it's all cute. The bears are cute, and Goldilocks is cute. She finally finds this one listing, and she says, "This one is just right." Zoom in, freeze it, pause the scene, because they actually had the nuts to do this on the screen. It is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Keep in mind, Goldilocks is living in the third bed of a house that she's commandeered. $820,000.
What?
Yeah.
$820,000 was the example they used for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's just right. Who the hell are they talking to?
And are those rooms the size of other houses themselves?
Who knows?
What is happening?
That's a $1 million question. So, we're like the frog in the pot.
Sorry, to afford it, she'd have to get the Three Bears in and Little Red Riding Hood in as roommates.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they all have OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I spoke with a gentleman from California. He's now in Georgia, been here 8 years.
Yeah.
And I asked him, point blank, this is just a few days ago. It was beautiful outside, 80-degree weather. It's beautiful here.
Yep.
I asked him, I said, so you've been here 8 years? He said, yeah. And I said, what do you prefer, California or here? He said, honestly, California. And I said, why? He said, because it's like this every day. It's 80 degrees on average every day. And I said, so you came here? And he said, yeah, can't freaking afford California.
Yeah. So you don't like California, is what you're saying?
Well, he loves California.
Yeah.
It's just he can't afford
And
it.
now we've got clients that were moving out here from California because their money would go further.
Yep.
And they were coming out with a bag of money, and when they went to make a purchase here, it was rough, but they could deal with it.
Now it's closer to an even trade.
It's about an even trade, and
Yep.
they're not as excited about coming out here, except they're running out of water, which is, that's another thing. But which
And the
well,
earthquakes.
that's always
That's a necessity. I
The
think.
earthquakes and
Yeah.
the fires.
That's one of those things, shake and bake, right? So,
Trying to make it.
but it's,
Shake and bake.
oh, that's old.
See, that's a winner, though. That is
It is a
a
winner.
joke. And I'm sorry I didn't get a better response, Robert.
But you know, so we're looking at these obscenely elevated costs. This is not only not sustainable. What it all sums up is when we talked previously, and I don't even know if I remember bringing this back up for the listeners to recall, but these 8 projects that we have that are stalled, they represent the housing market. I don't care what anybody says, it's flat. It is stalled badly.
So what do you mean by that exactly?
They are all clients that have good jobs. They have strong earning power. They have great property values.
One or both are high-level professionals. You know,
And
Now these families, though?
yes, they're all families.
All families.
And what they're looking to do, the expansions that they're looking to do their house,
Very
are
reasonable.
not dramatic. They're
No.
not unreasonable. They're not excessive.
They're not trying to turn their house into a McMansion.
They're just trying
they're
to add
just
a
make it
bedroom or
work
two
better.
for their kids.
What we wanted you to do is just have an idea. We see it. We understand it.
You're not crazy.
You're not
Shit's
crazy.
hard.
Capitalism is not a bad system. It is not being managed properly.
Well, it's
And it is a system
It's
that
being
needs to be managed.
exploited.
It's being exploited badly. And, you know, the word regulation comes up, and that gives everybody a stroke. But unfortunately, what you're enjoying is an unregulated capitalist system. Because the idea is, oh, it will always fix itself. You know, supply and demand. Well, guess what? Ain't working so friggin' hot right now.
well, it's regulated. It's unregulated with also a crony corporate top.
Amen?
Yeah.
That's tied into politics, and that's a whole other subject too. But like, I could rant for a good hour on that one. But I agree. I think that it's a good system. It's just being corrupted.
Precisely. So, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to start talking about things you can do.
Well, folks, shake and bake. Thank you for listening to Nuhaus Knows, where you go when you need to know.
John's
Thanks,
the guy now.